Alive with Benjamin. Benjamin live stream. Life saving or spending? We're spending life right now. That's what we're doing. Maybe we're investing life if we're into that. This is Benjamin Boyce, and you have somehow found this live stream. I didn't warn you about it. It's a little later than usual. Actually, there's no usual because while I used to do live streams on Thursdays, I stopped doing that. But now I'm doing it again. And of course, as soon as I start recording, if I am recording, right? Looks like we're live. The cat starts chewing on the freaking box. I don't know how long I'm going to let her chew on the box. Bijou, can you figure that out? Bijou, stop. All right, there we go. How are you guys doing? Josue, welcome to the chat. Yeah, I'm just going to ramble. If you guys have any questions, there's already a question there. You guys are going to have to wait for tomorrow to watch the Jack Murphy live stream. I'm not going to spoil that for you. I can talk about that next Thursday. If I do a live stream next Thursday, I can talk about the interview. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I benefited from it. I got valuable amounts of exchange and participation out of it. I put up the premiere page and it's already flooded. That guy. Whew. Not going to comment on that right now, though. Anyhow, so yeah, Niwatori, you are up so late, dude. This is Niwatori. Been on my channel. Lovely interlocutor. I need to actually spell that out before I say that ever again. I'm going to prep up. I wanted to... Ooh. Okay, we do... Oh, wait. Don't ask again. Cancel. I don't need the audio. Okay, can you see me? Oh, wait. I'm way over there. Okay, let's not do that yet. But I just want to make sure that was a really risky click. I just showed you guys my desktop. Wait, come on. Go back over there. Okay. I did have a funny little internet exchange that I thought was funny. I was going to read to you guys for something to read to you. Danimal, the Bruce wrench emoji. Hey, you inspired me to do my own stuff. I hope your stuff is going good insofar as it's being done. It's good to do your own stuff. It's amazing. You know what I figured out? So I have this microphone set up. I have this pole that's going across the top of my room, and it's like kind of like wedged into the walls. And then I have this, what is it? This microphone hanger thing, like an arm or stand or something. And it's by a company that I saw on Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan had these. I'm like, oh, I need one of those things with the arm that I could fit. I used to have it on my desk. Then I went overhead with my camera and my mic. And it has this built-in XLR cable. You know what an XLR cable? It's the 3-pronged one. And there's something wrong with the XLR cable. And so a lot of my recordings have noise in them. And I'm like, well, what's going on? What's going on? I did a bunch of troubleshooting. Now Bijou wants out. I'll be right back. You want out? Go. The cat is always on the wrong side of the door. So it's got this built-in cable, which is really convenient because it runs inside of this arm and then around and then down into my mixer thing, whatever that is. An Apollo Twin X, like USB audio interface, high quality stuff. Not this freaking mic cable though. So there's a bunch of noise in the actual line, and now I have to figure out, I'm going to have to get another XLR cable and reroute the whole thing. But I have this shortish one now, so it's just kind of jury-rigged, and it's just kind of winding all over the place. My studio is not the cleanest studio. Not that you guys would care. I mean, we've just been in space, right? Just floating on the black background. Been in space, here we are. So Zent is selling bunkers. Is this kind of like a bridge? Like you have a bridge to sell, a bunker to sell? Is that what's going on? Is nuclear holocaust still on the table? I thought we got over that. We were back to climate change for a while there, and then Will Smith happened with the Chris Rock smacky down thing. And then something else happened. Elon Musk happened to Twitter, which is fascinating. We'll see what happens. A lot of people that are really smart, as far as I can ascertain, are people that I listen to. They have all these like theories about what's going on. Who knows what's going on? Could be a big play. So what happened, if you don't know? Elon Musk, I think it was last week, he bought like 9.1 or 10% of Twitter.com, which is this place for sentences. Well, only some sentences, and only some sentences from some people. But it used to be just sentences, and then they kind of cracked down on who can write what and what you can write. And did a bunch of banding and stuff and kind of culled it down to this kind of Democrat utopia where the people that you don't like saying things that you don't like get banished to like off-platform stuff. But then Elon Musk, who says that free speech is important. I don't know exactly to what degree or what he actually thinks. He started to make some waves. He's always making waves on that app. He's a brilliant memer marketer. And he bought 10%, 9.1%. And then everybody's like, oh no, he bought all this stuff. He bought all this stuff. And then they were going to offer him, or they offered him a seat at the board and he turned it down. And then this morning, I think, or maybe last night, he made an offer to buy the whole company, which I'm not a stock market expert or anything like that. There's a bunch of like analysis of that where he wants to buy the whole thing and make it a free speech platform. And people are like, well, how does the finances work and da-da-da-da. And if he sells all his stock, then it tanks, and the shareholders and the fiduciary responsibility, which is the best part of the whole thing, is that everybody's saying fiduciary responsibility, which is something that I always love when people start saying. It's like one of my favorite phrases, fiduciary responsibility. You could really get a lot of accents, put a lot of accents in there. Fiduciary responsibility. Anyways, that's just my most salient bit. Stuff going on. But the cool thing about it is that all these like Democratic operatives are like freaking the frack out about him, like turning it into a free speech zone. And they're like, democracy doesn't work without censorship. I'm sorry. Content moderation. It's hilarious. They're a bunch of like censorious nut jobs. And we always knew it all along, but it only works one way for them. They're fine with it when they're fine with it as long as it aligns with their purposes. They're fine with free speech or hate speech, whatever that is, as long as they can define it. And now that they're at risk of not being able to define the terms of engagement, which is how they win, a lot of these power-hungry people, and it's not about leftism, and it's not about the Democratic Party so much as it's about power, and it's stodgy power at that. And these people have gotten into a position, these elites, got into a position to control the discourse, and now it's being yanked out from under them. And the thing about Twitter is that it has audience. There's been a bunch of competitors. They're not even really competitors. Just like YouTube, maybe YouTube actually does have competitors, but, BitChute and Odyssey and what's that other one that people say, put your stuff up on there, but it's so lugubrious to post my stuff up there. I can't remember it. Rankled or Wrecked? Rumble. They're not really competitors to YouTube. They're alternatives to YouTube. They don't in any meaningful way compete with YouTube because YouTube has eyes. Twitter has eyes. Everybody's putting sentences on Twitter. That's where all the power is. The Democratic operatives, it just so happens to be the case that the people who have the power right now, the elites, are Democratic and leftists. They're not leftists purely. They're leftists, neoliberals, whatever you want to call them. They could control the terms of engagement. And now that that's being yanked out from under them, we get to actually see their values are not about liberty or freedom. They're about control. And, there's a bunch of the commenter class, whatever. So it'd be funny. It'd be hilarious if I don't know what's actually going to happen. I really doubt, just from my gut, my intuition, but I don't know. I'll be pleasantly surprised if Elon Musk actually takes it over. Some people are saying he could take it over and all this financial stuff, or he tanks the value of the stock by selling off his shares. I don't know how it all works. And then he starts his own platform. I think that Elon Musk starting a platform because he's connected to software. I mean, Tesla's mostly just software. That's all it really is. It's like software and a battery and a shell that you sit in. But it's primarily a software company. He possibly could be the one to actually make a legitimate competitor to Twitter. Why does Twitter matter? Because it's the realm of public discourse. It's distilled into sentences. It's just the realm of public discourse. And if we get to it on this live stream, I'll read a little bit of discourse. I will read a little bit of discourse that I was treated to by a stranger. It's funny. Maybe I'll just read that. Because time's a ticking. I don't want to spend your life unduly. Yeah. Josu. There's a Josue and a Josu, and I've never seen that name, and I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm so sorry. Watching the masks fall is always fun. Cool Cat doesn't know what fiduciary means. It's F-E-D-U-C-I, fiduciary. I-A-R-Y. Now Bishu's trying to open like the bathroom cupboard door. Like she gets really obsessed, my black cat. She gets really obsessed with trying to open the door. So it just thumps and thumps. She likes to do this at 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock, 5 in the morning or 7 p.m. Anyway, so fiduciary just means financial or financial-ish, right? Yeah, fiduciary responsibility. You're in charge of the finances, or your responsibility is about the financial growth of this company. And so Elon Musk, it seems like, is positioning the board. It's not a board of trustees, but the board of stock voters or whatever they are. The board of the board. I don't know what it is. They need to always be acting in the fiduciary responsibility. Their job is to make sure that Twitter makes money. And Elon's basically like, I don't know, is a hostile takeover if somebody's pointing a gun at your head or not, but it seems a little hostile. I think it's funny. I think it's great. So it's up for them to make the best choices with regards to the stock holders. And Elon Musk has positioned himself to squeeze them a little bit. Who knows why, really? Who knows why? It might just be for the lulz, because I wouldn't put it beyond Elon Musk to be in it for the lulz. Somebody said that he's literally trying to own the libs, which is like stellar tweet. That's why Twitter is important, because sentences are important. It all comes down to the sentences. I mean, yeah, you can go into the syntax and go to the semantics, but it's really about the sentence. It's really about the zinger. Your hot take, your shit take, your poop take, your scoop. It's all about the take, and the take in a sentence form, that's how it goes, line by line, one by one. I mean, you can do some lyrics there. Every once in a while, I put some sort of poem on there, and I break it all up. It's still a sentence. Even if there's like a couple periods, and I could pop off a couple of technical sentences, a tweet's still just a sentence, and it's all about the sentence. It's really powerful. The sentence is really powerful. I've spoken about that at length before. Oh, so many names. Gloifty. If you are insolvent, you're not allowed to say fiduciary. Is insolvent the good one or solvent? Do you want to be a solvent or an insolvent? If water's the universal solvent, is ice the universal insolvent? Or is that like adamantine or something like that? I don't know. So let's do this really stupid Twitter thread. Okay, I'm going to try it again. The risky click. Show my desktop. Just have faith. There we go. Okay, so stop. Cancel. Okay. Wait, why can't I? Let me try to make myself bigger and position. Oh, you can't see that though. I'm more important than the sentence. I'm not more important than a sentence, and I can't push it off screen, so there's a bunch of black space. Anyways, so the other day, Monday at 9:12, I'm just scrolling along, minding my business, looking for something to make a sentence about. And out of nowhere, this guy named Ryman Holman with a Ukraine flag in his bio. Quick note about the Ukraine flag. I meet so many people on Twitter.com with the Ukraine flag in their bio that are making absolute fools of themselves and are being idiots. and they have nothing to do with Ukraine. So they're associating Ukraine in my mind and other people's minds with idiocy, you know? So these people signal this thing to get a little bit of status, but they don't pay any actual personal cost for this. There's no meaningful personal cost in putting the Ukraine flag in your bio. You can go around without any sort of fiduciary or otherwise responsibility, spouting your mouth off and associating your shit takes with Ukraine. The Ukraine doesn't deserve this. They are literally embattled right now. Leave them the heck alone. Your little like club of like signaling is not worth like tanking the reputation of this sovereign nation insofar as it's still a sovereign nation. I'm not going to get into it, but I think it is. I hope my sound's okay. I might be tearing. Who cares? So anyway, so Ryan Holman, he's a YouTuber with 40 million views. Work seen here, IndyCar 1909, champweb.net, and Front Stretch. I think that's a company for front holes, to dilate them. I had to do research for this interview that's publishing tomorrow, so I watched a bunch of Mr. Medicare. Oh man, that guy is spicy. That guy is a spicy fellow. Don't look at that. I need to go over to screens and then get this over onto the desktop. Oh, can I just put this right here? I'm sorry. I have to show you guys this freaking thing. What? Gosh. Hold on. I have to show you guys. I have to blow up Ryan Holman. I mean, expand his profile picture to get very specific so that the censors who control this particular zone of the internet don't get onto me about that. Oh, how do I do this? Choose file and screens. Nope, can't do that. I'm just going to show you a picture of him. Why can't I find it? Show in current screen. Okay, here we go. Sorry about this. You guys are fun. So here he is. Sorry, you can't see me, can you? You can't see me and hear me at the same time. Okay, here we go. We'll be over here. I was not prepared for this at all. There we go. Okay. So this is Ryan Holman. Anyways, so he has 40 million views. I don't know how many views I have, but I have more than 40 million at this point. I had 55,000 hours watched last month, which is pretty good. It's actually really good because my content is so long, so people are actually paying attention to the content. So let's go back over here to, just this and then this. Okay, here we go. So he contacts me and he's like, so why do you have such a hatred for minorities? Oh, by the way, when he contacted me, he had 5,000 followers even, which he probably bought because who has 5,000 followers even? But since then he's gained 2. And he's got, oh no, he's following 5,000 people. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you buy followings? I don't know. Okay, never mind. I don't know anything about his character. I should not impugn his character. He joined August 2017. Anyway, so why do you have such a hatred for minorities? You're a piece of shit reactionary, and frankly, you're a bad person. Sorry, there's going to be language involved, but I didn't write this. I'm just reading this. I'm relaying to you what Ryan Holman thinks about me. I reply, so if you're looking at the screen, I'm in blue, Ryan's in gray. Maybe I should make up a voice for him so that we can tell them apart if you're just listening to this while you are busying yourself with needlepoint. Who are you? That's me. I'm just a person who has issues with bigots like yourself. From what I've seen of you, you're a hate-filled person. Is this about the parsnip tweet? Because I kind of dissed on parsnips a couple days prior to this. And he says, no. It's about you going on about how much you dislike trans people. Are you a trans person? No, but I'm an ally. How is allyship accomplished through Twitter DMs? That's my question. Ryan continues, it's not the only thing. What else is there, Ryan? Are you mowing people's lawns? In any case, I'm calling out a bigot. By the way, why do you hate trans people? The right's obsession with them seems pretty irrational. How have I hated trans people? That's my question. From what I've seen, you think their existence is invalid, or maybe invalid, and you really have an issue with trans children. What is a trans child? I ask. He answers, a child who is transgender. Let me guess, you think their existence is invalid. Like, why do they always go to existence and validation? Like, if your existence needs to be validated, maybe you don't exist. Like, seriously, if somebody can invalidate your existence, like, you don't exist. And who can invalidate your existence? The DMV, the government. Like, individual people can't invalidate the existence of other people. You can't do that. I guess you could, like, meaning that they don't exist. What do you like? You're nothing but a bunch of ghosts, right? It's like that person that goes around thinking that everybody on the internet is just a bunch of like AI bots, feds, and 14-year-olds, which we all are, you know, to be honest with you. But still, is that point? It's like you're invalidating the existence of all these people by assuming, probably correctly, that they are AI 14-year-olds and feds, or feds posing as 14-year-olds, or AI posing as 14-year-olds. Or 14-year-olds doing all of the above, which you should never put it beyond 14-year-olds to accomplish. Anyways, he goes to the invalidate their existence. Okay, so I'm just like, what's a trans child? Let me guess, you think their existence is invalid? Okay. I don't understand the term existence is invalid. How is a trans child diagnosed and defined? By what methods are they treated? To what extent do various treatments work? What are the trade-offs and risks of hormones in a pre-adult human? I continue. Is trans, quote unquote, a physical or mental state? Does it vary by culture, by nurture, by exposure to social or ecological stimuli? Does trans exist without modern medicine? Is medical transition reversible? Should hormones be accessed as easily as marijuana minus the age restriction, which it is? It's easier to walk into a Planned Parenthood as a 16-year-old and to get on testosterone or estrogen than it is to walk into a pot shop and get pot. I guess it's technically easier to get pot if you know a pot dealer, right? But you know, you could just get online and get the hormones too. Anyways, it's kind of like a squishy point. I lost my reading glasses. There they are. Okay, so I do the Socratic thing, you know, because I'm not going to argue with people on the internet. I really want to understand what he thinks, right? I don't care what he thinks of me. I want to know what he thinks. So ask questions. And then what do detransitioners tell us about undiagnosed comorbidities that were errantly lumped under the trans label? And then I sent him a link. And I was going to write out this thing saying, I've been interviewing a lot of people, experts, trans people, detrans people, psychologists, clinicians about this issue, and here's what I've found. You know, if you want to look at my work, here's my work on this issue. But he types a reply, so I delete my explanation for the link. Trans children views. Wait, why did you do that? Trans children are children who adhere to the physical and mental state of that, while also going through those physical processes. I bet he pronounces processes as processes in his head. But one can't be sure. And then I ask, the physical and mental state of what? Right? Transgender, dumbass. Right? And then I ask, you haven't defined transgender. Are you, this is the best part. I love this. Okay. So Ryan Holman, okay, I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, a trans child is a child who's trans. I'm like, well, what does that mean? It's to be trans and to transition. That's what what is transgender? You haven't defined what is transgender. Where does it come from? What is it? And then he replies, are you that effing stupid? Do I need to explain the definition of every word here? Of course, bigotry is often not smart. There's like this iron law of projection that may or may not be in effect here. I reply, you haven't defined transgender other than to say it's being transgender. He continues, it's interesting that you hate a group, yet need to have it explained to you. And I reply, how do you know I hate a group if you can't define the group I supposedly hate? Right? You came into my DMs, define your terms, right? And this is the thing. Go back to controlling the terms of engagement. It's all about power. It's not about learning, understanding, getting things necessarily done other than what you want to have done through your will. It's about controlling the conversation. It's about controlling the terms of engagement. And that's what Ryan's playing at. He thinks that he can throw out the word bigot. Doesn't work on me. I went to Evergreen State freaking College. I was inoculated to accusations of bigotry long before this guy even knew how to tone type on a touchscreen. Touch type on a touchscreen. Anyways. Just judging by his profile picture and the fact that his profile picture is him like posing with a bunch of like NASCAR models who are paid to stand there and smile with him, like thinking that that's some sort of status symbol. It's not. You paid to be there. Anyway, so this guy is projecting. He thinks that he can control the conversation, and I don't think he thinks that. I think that that is what he's absorbed in the context of this allyship that he's doing, right? And these allies do the same thing. They just absorb this thing. It's like, okay, I'm going to put the Ukraine flag in my photo. I'm going to call anybody who says these certain keywords or has this position a bigot, a phobe of some sort, or sexist or whatever, racist, blah, 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 blah. You know, you just go through the motions. And then when I get pushback, then I bring out the heavy hammers, the heaviest hammer I have. You're invalidating the existence of this group that I can't even define, right? So this guy hasn't even thought through these issues. I'm trying to get him to think through the issues so that I can understand, like, if he knows what he knows, how he thinks about how he thinks. He's not there yet. So how can I hate a group? How can he accuse me of hating a group if he can't even define the group that I hate? Is questioning that group? Is to understand, like, what does create that group? Is that in itself hate? Is invalidating the existence? If your existence can be invalidated by skepticism, by questioning, then maybe you don't really exist. Maybe that's a fantasy. Maybe this invalidation of experience is actually a tell that it's a house of cards. That if you can't even validate the experience by like carefully constructing what that existence actually means, if you can't actually go through that, if you can't validate it, if you can't positively validate the existence of something, then don't go around accusing people of invalidating the existence of something, right? Don't do it. Unless you have like solid arguments. Answer one freaking question. He doesn't do that. Instead, he mind reads, I can see your dislike for the group. Since you need to have words explained to you, transgender is adhering to the gender characteristics of something not necessarily aligned with your birth sex. So this is the key idea or the foundation of his thought. To be transgender is adhering to the gender characteristics of something not necessarily aligned with your birth sex. So if I have a handlebar growing out of my neck, does that make me a bicycle? Does that make me less of a man? If I have I don't know where I came up with that. I'm just saying, like, any given thing that doesn't necessarily align with your birth sex makes you transgender. What is a gender characteristic, right? But so he opens up that can of worms. So that's where the discussion actually begins. But instead of focusing on that, he jumps to the next thing, from invalidating experience to that ace in the hole, right? He skips to the next part. Look, this is Ryan. You probably don't care about the fact that allowing people to transition reduces suicide rates, especially amongst children. Hell, you might think it's a good thing for trans people to commit suicide. So not only am I invalidating the existence, I'm wishing that they would invalidate their own existence for me. Go ahead. To not be validated means that they will end their existence. That's the bind that the transgender allyship narrative, transgender, not transsexual, allyship narrative, so not even all transgender people take this tact or have thought only this deeply about it. It's that You either agree with us or we don't exist, which makes their existence very unstable, very non-resilient, very fragile, right? So it needs to be coddled. It needs to have allyship. You need to go around and jump into people's DMs to shore up the existence of this group that's so frail that if they are not validated, they will cease to exist voluntarily. Right? So the stats on suicide rates with the trans folk or transsexuals or people with gender dysphoria, it's a very complex set of data. So at this point, I'm like, okay, well, he wants to change the conversation to suicide. So I go on Twitter. I'm like, does anybody have any solid data about suicide rate among trans identifying youth? And I can't get through that because I'm not a scientist, but it's still contested. There's not a lot of actual suicide. There's suicidal ideation, but there's also a tremendous amount of comorbidities. There's a lot of different things going on in somebody who has gender dysphoria specifically, or somebody who goes into a clinic or seeks help for their gender dysphoria. There's a lot of underlying conditions that lead to suicide. Suicide is not a univariate outcome, or suicide is not caused by one single cause. It's usually by a multiple cause. And suicide rates specifically in preteen children is very, very low. It's very low. So there's, suicide among teens and then suicide later in life. If we're talking about specifically about transgender children, whatever that means, and we have to question that, because what is a trans child? And once we define the term trans child, or once we put that out into the universe, what happens? We're seeing what happens when we create the category trans child. It leads to medicalization that's not always correct. It's actually statistically probably not the best option to, block or institute the opposite sex puberty. According to the data that I've seen and the people that I've spoken to, and I do have a bias, right? So I'm not all seeing. Right. But when we bring up the suicide statistic, it's not just one and done. But that's another way to control the conversation. You invalidate the existence is one thing. It doesn't even mean anything. Right. And to even question that means that you're doing that, whatever that means. But then you bring up the suicide stats. So now we're going to get into the part of the argument where we're just going to start trading research papers. Right. Which only means that we're only going to be sharing papers with each other that validate our priors. That's the end of the conversation. So we almost got to a conversation. And then we go to the suicide thing, which ends the conversation again, because we're just going to talk statistics now. And I'm sure that this guy's not a statistician, and I know for a fact that I'm not either. So I don't go down the suicide route just then. I focus instead on gender characteristics. I ask him, what are gender characteristics? Are you talking about if a woman isn't Barbie or June Cleaver? I put that reference in there intentionally because I knew he wouldn't know what I was talking about. If he's not Barbie or June Cleaver, then she's not a real woman. Or if a man is effeminate and likes, say, bright colored clothing, is he transgender if his society tells me to act manly and wear suits? I follow that up because I catch my typo after I send it and I write, truthfully, this is truth, sorry for typos. My computer is rendering an interview with a trans man and so the web browser is lagging. A little bit of a rib. Like I actually talk to trans people. I actually like promoting trans people. You little freaking twerp. In all honesty. Okay, and then Ryan says it also involves a physical transition. And then I say, and I plug my Buck Angel interview. And then, of course, let me guess. I'm like, here, check this out. If you want to know what trans people think, here's one trans person. Let me guess, says Ryan. It's going to be some trans person who advocates against their group, like saying they shouldn't be acknowledged in schools. Children shouldn't be allowed to transition. Activists are going too far, or what have you. Well, are they not? Should they be transitioned? Should they not? To what degree should trans people be acknowledged in school? I mean, to what degree? That's an open question. That's an open question. It's really context dependent. It's a pretty heavy category to lay on children. But I'm sure there's an appropriate way to introduce that concept to children. But we know that concept is a very powerful concept, especially to children, especially people with protein minds. Like, wait, I can just change my body to align what I imagine I want to be? Like, why would I want to be a human being? Attack helicopter, I went there. Sorry. And then I ask him about research of suicidality, and he gives him my thing, and I could reply with this other thing. And then he goes on. I'm going to cut to the chase because he just goes on and on and on and on and on. Okay, I'll just go through it. I get impatient with these things. Maybe you guys are patient. I don't know. I see that you want to wiggle around giving an answer. He wants an answer. You can't just say that you think children should transition, even though that's what they want to do. And it also improves their mental health. In all cases, to what percent? Should we just give a child what they want? And again, I mean, I don't mean to, can I show this again? I don't mean to diss the guy in and of himself, but should we give a child everything we want? Do you think that this guy knows how to raise a child, right? And to do what's best for a child, right? I mean, 40 million YouTube views is a lot of views, I know. But how far can you ride that into the gracious land of complete authority over an issue that you're a Twitter warrior about? To continue, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to spill my drink on a live stream. You can hide behind, this is Ryan, you can hide behind some faux concern of think of the children. Well, aren't you doing that? You want to transition, you want to give children what they want, so you're thinking of the children too. Okay, whatever. But my concern is faux concern. Your concern is authentic concern because you're an ally. And I'm a gadfly. To continue, but if you and your ilk really cared about them, you wouldn't harass them, state that their existence is wrong, try to impose legislation against them, and so on. I don't know where I've advocated any of those things. I mean, watchful waiting. I critically analyzed this topic, but I'm not harassing trans children. Anyways, so it doesn't matter. Like, I can't refute any of this stuff because he's just going on a screed. That's not the way. Like, I can bitch about this right here on a live stream, but that's not the way to actually interact with him. Because any bitching on my part, he automatically wins. Because he's got it's like this thing. It's like people will stoop. There's no depth people won't stoop to maintain that moral high ground, right? So he thinks he has the moral high ground. I actually have to maintain the moral high ground because I don't want to get dirty. He's going to fight dirty no matter what. So I have to fight clean, right? So I can't do tit for tat. I can't do it because it doesn't resolve the conversation, and it doesn't allow me to really own him, to really like show him in a roundabout way that he doesn't know what he's talking about, which is the ultimate goal, right? Is to Socratically kind of draw out the person's actual realms of thought. So he's doing personal attacks. So am I in this live stream because I'm having fun with it, right? So, but I'm not being constructive right here, trying to engage constructively within the context of some rando on Twitter, which I know is a waste of time, but I hardly ever get any of these things. So, I indulged myself in him with a parlay. To continue. All the while, this is Ryan, all the while you'll do a how dare you if I state that you are a bigot. Haven't said that, which I'd say you've proven yourself to be, considering your hostility to a group. All he's doing is how daring me. And then he's like, see, this is what I say about fighting dirty with an idiot like this. Sorry. I'm sure he's really smart. He got 40 million YouTube views. Seriously, 40 million YouTube views. Doesn't about watch time or anything like that. Don't look at that. But 40 million views. You have to be doing something right to get that many views. The algorithm doesn't just boost up 14-year-old federal agents who are built out of AI and take pictures with people, with women who look like a Barbie for money, smiling, and then post that as their outward facing thing. Anyways, he's part of like the front assist, the frontal expansion or whatever. He does something with front holes, dilation. Probably actually does that. To continue. Okay, so yeah, and then you'll be like, see, he's like, anyways, okay. And then even if the concept of transgender people of any age was wrong, their existence literally has no impact on you. Even if okay, I have to read that again. Even if the concept of transgender people of any age was wrong, their existence literally has no impact on you. So he admitted that their existence might not be an existence, but if their existence doesn't actually exist, then yes, it literally has no impact on me. I don't even know how to make less sense of that. than he did. Okay. So I try to like rationally, reasonably say, I believe this topic to be very complex. And I'm being honest here. I believe this topic to be very complex and that its politicization has wide-ranging negative impacts on many at-risk individuals. My work on the matter is ongoing. So I said it's politicization. I mean, it's third-party allyship going around and trying to force everybody to think a certain way about a certain thing. That politicization, to make it about power, to make it about asserting power over people and being able to take the moral high ground and then point down and say, you're a bigot, you have to change your mind about this thing. That's what I mean by politicization. And making this topic politicized in that sense about power, about controlling public discourse, has negative impacts on many at-risk individuals. I honestly, sincerely believe that. And that's why my work, okay, I should read what I wrote. My work on the matter is ongoing. Accusations of bigotry don't mean anything to me due to my extensive firsthand experience with persons who assert ally status to bully others into shallow thinking. Then I give him an article that disputes his article on suicide. I was sent this paper by a leading expert in the field of sexuality and gender. It seems to confute the paper linked in the article you sent. Argument by link, however, is unlikely to solve any differences of opinion. That's me making a sentence. That's like a good sentence. Yeah. Argument by link is unlikely to solve any difference of opinion. I mean, if I was an ancient Egyptian pharaoh, I would have that inscribed and installed in my tomb to be resurfaced by future seekers of wisdom. To continue, dude, this is Ryan, dude, you're wanting to advocate against a group of people due to who they are. You can hide behind, I'm just asking questions all you want, but you're being a bigot. How? Simply put, there's basically no difference between you and some person who wants to use some pseudoscience to claim black people are more violent than white people, of course. And then you go on to the next issue, right? You're not getting what you want, which is kowtowing or like owning me by showing me to like get mad. Like you're not getting an emotional reaction out of me. So you change the topic again and say like, you're a racist too, right? This is argument by association. This is argument by rote. Right? This is argument by Ukraine flag in your freaking bio. And no offense if you have a Ukraine flag in your bio and you're actually trying to do good for Ukraine. But people like this should not have the Ukraine flag in their freaking bio. Right? What did I say right? That was a needless punctuation. I shouldn't do that. Okay. And then, by the way, I looked at the author of the research you provided, and I quickly found this. Okay, so he goes and he finds a hit piece by a bunch of Harvard students on the guy who co-wrote the article on Suicide Watch. And I went through and I read that article, and guess what? He actually had a reasonable position, and a bunch of people were calling him a bigot and a transphobe and not actually engaging with his actual arguments, right? So it's just like, okay, yes, you just laundered your opinion, which is the same level of thinking. This entire generation of college-educated nincompoops are just learning to think by rote. They're learning to think by Ukraine flag in bio. This is current thingism. This is all it is, right? Why engage with it? Because it's entertaining right now. Why engage with it then? Because I had a little bit of time and I wanted to be entertained. But I still have to I have to say my piece. This isn't solving anything. And if Elon Musk gets a hold of Twitter, this stuff will continue. I'm fine with it continuing. I only have so much energy to put into it. But these people are the ones who want to control everybody else's speech. These are the people who want to control the playing field, the terms of engagement. That's why they're upset with somebody saying, no, there are no terms. You have to sink or swim on your argument, right? We're not going to kick people off because you dislike them. We're not going to do that. And I'm kind of quoting Elon Musk because he said something. There's a little video. He's not the best speaker. Elon, just to say that he's not a perfect human being, and I say that so I don't get associated as an Elon bro. I don't know what they're called. Elon Brusque? I don't know what the Elon fans are called. I'm not a fanboy of Elon Musk, so he's got faults, right? But he said something to the effect that, how do you know they have a free speech problem is if people dislike something that you don't like and you don't have to hear them anymore. Basically, that's what he said. I thought that was pretty good. It was a clever sentence, right? It wasn't executed properly, and I'm not the best speaker in the world either. So me and Elon Musk have more in common than you would think. Super chat, $2. Science I don't agree with is bigotry. AD, put it so succinctly. Sentences, see guys? That's what I'm talking about. Anyway, so argument by Ukraine flag in bio, which is different than actually supporting Ukraine. I hope you guys understand that. Read me. Read me. Witness me. At this point, I've said my piece. Yeah, right. So this is Ryan. At this point, I've said my piece, right? So, okay. Didn't get what he wanted. Got to accuse me of bigot several times. Didn't engage with my questions. Threw out a couple of articles. Shot my article down by quickly Googling and not actually reading the article that kind of proved my point that this guy's actually a reasonable person that wrote this other article, whatever, but change the topic in the conversation. I've said my piece, he writes. At this point, I've said my piece. You've just danced around having a firm view. But even then, where you line up puts you in line with being a bigot. So even me having a flexible view means that I'm a bigot. What is a bigot, Ryan Holman? Is it somebody that you disagree with, or is it somebody who has a very narrow opinion on a topic and is unable to entertain other points of view? Is that what a bigot is? That's what a bigot used to be until the people who act like this, argument by Ukraine flag in bio, got in control of the freaking dictionary. They're even controlling the dictionary to change the word bigot to mean somebody who has doesn't like different groups of people. No, it's people who cannot entertain other points of view. That's the core of it. That's what really makes bigot actually meaningful and impactful. It's like, no, you're rigid. You can't have flexible point of view. So he's saying, I'm a very flexible bigot. It's almost like I'm somebody whose category, even if it doesn't exist, it doesn't even affect him because I don't even exist in the first place. Because I'm a nuanced bigot. That didn't quite come out right. Okay, so he's said his piece. If you think that's unfair, I suggest changing your views. If it's unfair that some rando's calling me a bigot or in line with bigot because I have flexible points of view. Okay. I take pleasure in the fact that reactionaries like yourself have to deal with a changing world that is evolving past your views. I think the world is much more complex than Ryan Holman gives it credit for. So, I'm like, I don't even know what the world is yet. I'm not even sure what the world is yet. That's why I'm inquiring. That's why I'm trying to engage inquisitively with the world, right? But he's glad. It's like, oh, I'm going to be left behind because I'm still trying to figure out the world. He already knows what the world is, and it's changing in the right direction towards what? I guess acceptance and cutting off the dicks of children, basically. Cutting off the tits and dicks of children is what it's basically when you get down to it, and I'm sorry to be crude, but that's what he's actually arguing for, the taking off of body parts of children, the medicalization, the lifelong medicalization of children. Because it's what they want. That's what he's arguing for, ultimately. And me questioning this ideology, right? But that's his positive effect that he wants in the world. That's the way the world is changing. And again, I mean, I'm not to make fun of the guy, but like this guy stands with paid Barbies and promotes himself by that. I probably shouldn't be doing this takedown episode of this guy. It's so interesting. It's like, this is the level of self-reflection involved in this person, right? Gender characteristics. Oh man, I feel bad. I'm going to have to delete this episode. I'm sinning right now. I can feel it. Okay, so he's done, but he has more to say. Yep, now you're leading a harassment mob. Okay, so I thought it was so funny that I did post it. The first part up to him, not being able to define the group that he thinks that I hate, right? Yep, now you're leading a harassment mode. So he did block me. So after he blocked me, I'm like, okay, he blocked me on Twitter. So now we can stream. And I guess I did dox him because, he's got 40 million views and I have 42 million views on YouTube. So I am punching down a little bit. I guess that's why this is a sin. I am punching down a little bit. Godspeed. Okay, so he says he unblocks me to have more to say. Yep, now you're leading a harassment mob against me. What, people disagreeing with you on Twitter? Okay. Of course, you probably won't include the parts where I pointed out your flawed logic and showed that you don't care about people committing suicide. In any case, go F yourself. F-U-C-K. So So then he goes and he publishes the whole conversation, which shows my flawed logic. I mean, I could look at, do you guys see any flawed logic? I didn't even have a position yet. I was trying to build like a part where we could actually have a conversation. So I have flawed logic because I'm flexible of thought, because I'm not taking a firm position. Okay. And I don't care about people committing suicide. I do care about it. I don't want people to kill themselves. If you're feeling down in the dumps, don't do it. You have more life to live. No matter what it is. You know, if you're a child, you need more help. You need a lot of help. And if you're an adult, you need a lot of help. Anybody in that position needs a lot of help. And it's complex. And to collapse it all down into giving you what you want, I don't think is help. I don't think that is help. First do no harm, or first yeet the teats, right? Where does the medical establishment fall on that? And we can kind of see it's going to the yeetus of the tetus and the fetus, for that matter. Not getting into the abortion debate. Sorry I brought that up. But there was just a good rhyme there. And I say, Godspeed, keyboard warrior. So go forth and prosper, right? And he's like, fuck off, bigot. You probably will be too much of a pussy to put our whole conversation. Okay, here we go. So I am absolved of sin. I've now put our entire conversation online. So he wanted this to happen. At the last minute, Ryan Holman saves me from sinning. I published the whole conversation. I will be too much of a pussy. He calls me a pussy too. Okay, right? Okay. What is his views on women? Yeah, I'm okay with calling some people the T or the C or the P word sometimes. So I'm not perfect here. But anyways, he wanted this up there. So anyways, I'll tell you what. He keeps on having more to say, of course, because he lost. Right? So change the conversation, call people a mean name. If they don't react negatively, then call them another mean name. If they start to ask questions and have you clarify, call them mean names and then change the conversation when you actually have something approaching an actual argument. And then change the conversation, say you're gone, and then come back when they haven't like actually had their medicine yet. They have more medicine from me. I'm going to come back and I'll tell you what, he says. Tell me if you agree with this statement. With a simple yes or no. Okay, so he's clarifying. I give him credit here. He's trying to clarify. He's giving me an ultimatum, sure, but he's trying to say, okay, this is the litmus test. And he's being very specific here. A simple yes or no. There is no issue with the existence of transgender people. Yes or no? There's no issue with the existence of transgender people. What does Benjamin Boyce do? Freaking Benjamin Boyce. What does he do? Even I get annoyed with myself sometimes. This is what I write. It is a complex topic with many points of conflict, i.e. issues. To have a single rigid viewpoint wrapped in vague language, e.g. existence and validation, is to do severe injustice to all involved. In other words, he retorts, your answer is no. So there is an issue with the existence of trans people. There's a lot of issues. It's a huge topic. I have like hours and hours and hours of stuff. I'm going to just read the thing because maybe I say that. Your answer is no, he says. No, it's not no. I say, and the definition of a bigot is someone who cannot countenance different points of view. I use the word countenance. I shouldn't have. Too big of a word. Bad argumentation. Losing my audience here. Not you, of course. My sweetly lettered pen pals. Typing sentences my way. Look, he says. Remember, he had it done with me. But look, you can't just say there's no issue with trans people. You can't just say there's no issue with trans people. If you don't like being called a bigot, you shouldn't be one. A bigot? Also, bigotry is a prejudice toward a group. Well, yeah. Now it is. The freaking woke gelded definition. And gelded means have their balls cut off, by the way. The gelded definition of bigot is somebody who merely hates a group. Yes, that is a form of bigotry, but real bigotry is having a rigid point of view and not being able to see the nuance in that view, which does result in hating a group. Hating somebody who asks questions, that's a form of bigotry too. Hating somebody who doesn't give you a yes or no answer on a very complex topic that you have very little knowledge of, if I can judge by your argumentation skills and what you brought to the table here. Hating my group You hate the centrists. You hate me, the mamby-pamby centrists. We are hated. We are either, we're in the middle of the road. We're run over all day long. We can't even keep traffic orderly. We're just like plowed right over. Us people, everything's so complex. Even I get annoyed with that. So my retort, there are many issues to discuss around the transitioning of children. There are many issues. How self-ID impacts women. Can a man say that he's a woman, go into a woman's stall and jerk off? Is that an issue? Is that not an issue? And that's happening in the UK. Can a man go into a woman's prison and get female inmates can a man say he's a woman, go into female prison and then knock up a couple of female prisoners, which is happening, right? Is that not problematic? Is there not an issue there? Now the state is taking care of these babies that are going to be born in prison now. Not even about the rape thing, not even about like the consent aspect of that, but like, should we have prisoners producing children? Can they actually provide for these children? Like, is there not an issue there with that? And that comes from a man identifying as a woman and the state believing him and putting him in a position where he can get women pregnant in a prison. Is there no issue there? Like, there's no issue with that. To continue, okay, the long-term effects of cross-sex hormones, it affects everybody. You have to, if you transition, you have to be very careful about that and really regulate and have very tight relationship with the healthcare industry. Even if it is good for you, and transition is really good for you and it alleviates your gender dysphoria, you still have to understand that there are trade-offs with going on the opposite sex hormones. There are trade-offs there. There's trade-offs to body modification. It's not a one and done thing. There's trade-offs to being born too, right? Like, you exist, but you have to exist. So I guess there's trade-offs to everything. Again, I blew up the point. Sometimes I fire blanks, which is another reference to what I still have intact. But I'm using this part. Anyways, to continue, regret and detransition rates and reasons, the medical industrial complex, the conflation of sex and gender, sexuality and gender identity, and not least of all, what is a man and what is a woman? These are all these issues. To say there is no issues to say there are no issues is to betray a deep ignorance of this topic. Okay, and then he replies, my view is to allow these people to just live their lives. You seem to disagree. In other words, you're the one with the issue. Maybe that's the case. But he's taking issue with me. So I guess we're issued even. Anyways, again, got to self-promote. If you wish to be an effective ally, this is me. If you wish to be an effective ally, leave aside the name-calling and engage in actual dialogue. This is me being a mansplainer. I do that sometimes. I didn't just take the high road. I took the man in the cloud road. If you wish to be an effective ally, leave aside the name calling and engage in actual dialogue. No one's mind is changed by being called empty, bad things. And then I link him to my D-Trans stories and to my Let It All Hang Out, the Evergreen story. Then he comes back. The debate, quote unquote, is literally this. One side just wants to live their life as normal humans while your side fights against this. Okay. If that's how you see things, I reply, you are unwilling to engage in the complexity of the issue. I cannot but urge you to get a little curious and a little less righteous. He replies, it seems you have issues with trans people existing, fuckwad. You're repeating yourself, I say, because I have to get to work. I'm getting tired of this. You're repeating yourself because all he's doing is repeating himself. So, he's just like, he's caught in the loop. Existence, bigot, existence, bigot, existence, bigot, existence, bigot. You're repeating yourself. Maybe read some books. Watch some interviews with people you disagree with on this issue? Question mark. No thanks. I see no point in watching bigots. So everybody he disagrees with is a bigot. This is the own. It's like, okay, why don't you just listen to anybody? No, they're all bigots. Maybe I should get both sides of black people. Maybe I should get both sides of black people by watching KKK rallies. Of course, go to the race thing. You got to go to the race thing. You got to go to this other thing. Okay. And then of course, I'm getting touchy here. Low blood sugar, something like that. And then I send him like the definition of bigot. Literally projecting. Please read some Plato or Wittgenstein, because I knew it would really challenge him, and maybe even entertain him. Wittgenstein is a little witty, not as witty as Nietzsche, but still. Literally projecting, I link the definition of bigot, a person who is obstinately or unreasonably attached to a belief, opinion, or faction, especially one who is prejudiced against or antagonist toward a person or person on the basis of their membership of a particular group. Okay, especially the group stuff, right? But basically, the root is obstinately or unreasonably attached to a belief, opinion, or faction, right? And then calling everybody bigots that doesn't agree with your group, right? That literally describes you. He says, you're connected to the idea of hating a group. I'm connected to it. Who do I hate and how? Dude, I got to go to work. I wish you well. Okay, so I sign off. And then on my way to work, he writes, this is the thing with right-wingers like yourself. I'm right-wing. You'll be actively hostile to a group, and when people call you out on it, you'll just be like, hey, I'm willing to debate the topic, as though that somehow makes your bigotry good. Considering how you can't accept the existence of trans people, whatever that means, the existence part, I don't really understand that, and are actively hostile to them, I am hostile to the ideology. I try to circumvent actual people and their behavior. I call out behavior. I call out belief. I try not to be actively hostile to individuals. And sometimes I conflate that, but I've really been trying to wean that down, especially the last few months, especially this month, even though I'm being openly hostile to Ryan Holman. 40 million views on YouTube. Dilator of the front hole. Holman. Ukraine flag in bio debater skills. Holman. I'm being openly hostile to him. So, I understand that, but I try not to be a meanie, especially just based on one single characteristic of a person, right? At least that's what I strive for. But anyways, considering how you can't accept the existence of trans people and are actively hostile to them, you've shown a hatred for them. Either way, bye-bye, asshole. Either way, bye-bye, asshole. I like how he corrected himself, and I corrected him, so I have to read that again. Either bye-bye, asshole, or either way, bye-bye, asshole. And then he blocked me for the second or third time. So he blocked me, but he did want that up. And that's that. That's Ryan Holman. 40 million views on YouTube. 40 million views. You could buy those. Just click. But he's a righteous cause. He's an ally. With allies like these, who needs enemies? Right? Oh, look at that. People are like, I have a couple of fanboys. I'm fine. You guys, there's no hate if you're a Boy Boy. A Boy Scout, you're totally good. I'm having a hard time with these fancy names that you guys are trotting out in the chat. Majorn, he meant right-winger with the W, since you're such an excellent author. Actually, I am really proud of this book. I'm going to plug it. You can find it on YouTube. It's not the easiest thing to read, but actually it's pretty well written. I think this is the best thing I've ever written, and I'm still working on it. I'm just like moving words around. It's called Anwa, Son of Adam. You can get it on Amazon, $5. Worth your time. I liked it so much that I sent a free copy to Jonathan Peugeot, because on the off chance that he'd read it, it has a lot to do with what he talks about. It really, I had to sell it to Jonathan Peugeot, because who's got time for books anymore? Right, especially him. I'm sure he's got a lot on his plate right now. But I said that this is my attempt. This is the last thing that I wrote before I got uploaded into the internet. This is the last thing I wrote in literary land before I became a netizen, right? And it was me attempting to sing the ancient songs to a modern ear, right? And even though I do use iambic pentameter, imperfect at that. So even though it's encrusted with kind of stodgy, turgid. No, just stodgy, not turgid. Stodgy language a little bit. I think it's excellent book. So if you guys are interested in reading what I think is valuable about the human condition, this is me rewriting one chapter in Genesis. This is me inserting one chapter into Genesis, just about the son and daughter of Adam. And it's the core of my philosophy about what we're doing on the internet, what we're doing with our imagination, what we're doing with belief and will. and love. And it's called Anwas, Son of Adam, Anwas, Son of Adam. You can find that on the Amazon. $5. I think it's only like $3 if you have a Kindle. And I think it's worth people's time, so I don't mind plugging it. I never plug that, so I'm okay to plug it once. People like plug things all the time. I was watching Mr. Medicare. God, that guy is talented. That is a talented man. I just wonder what he could do if he did content that wasn't just like tearing other people apart. And he's brilliant at tearing people apart. But I just wonder, he's so talented. He's such a good speaker. He's so articulate. I just wonder what he would do if he was doing something constructive and creative rather than combative and critical. And, not to criticize him. Actually, I don't think that he would be actually interested in tearing me apart. So I'm not really afraid of him or, getting his fanboys up in a ruckus. And it's okay to be a fanboy. I don't have a problem with that. If you're a fanboy of Elon, of Boys Toys, you're a Boys Toy. That sounds wrong. Or Mr. Medicare, heckler on behalf of Mr. Medicare, nothing good. I'm just saying. It's a complex topic. Just trying to say that he's a brilliant man. It would be amazing if he did something that was like creative, constructive. But his critical content is brilliant stuff. It's just like watching acid like pour down, watching like acid or like Quicksilver, mercury, just like slowly pouring down a hill and engulfing a town. It's just like, oh my God, no, you can't look away. It's so like in the fluid dynamics of his brain. So I guess I might have channeled him a little bit in my acerbic acidicness towards Mr. 40 million YouTube views. Ukrainian flag and bio debate style. CurrentThingism. Anyway, so tomorrow, oh my goodness. Tomorrow I have, about the interview itself, but the reaction to the interview. So I interviewed Jack Murphy. Infamous guy. His brand, I'll say this, his brand blew up in December. If you guys want to know more backstory on that, I don't really get into the backstory. The interview takes place as though you kind of know what we're talking about. And we have a sit down. I was the first one that he would speak to about this issue, and I just gave him a place to speak. And we just explore this, and I have thoughts about the way that the internet is structured, and we get into that. And he's a very controversial figure because of his internet story. It's still fresh in people's minds, but there's just something so amazing about the reaction that he had to the internet. It's very profound. Like, people have very, very strong opinions about Jack Murphy. It doesn't seem entirely reasonable. I can see some people's points, but some people have it really hard against this guy. I think it's out of whack with the actual reality of the situation. I think we try to tug that out. So Jack was very generous to come on my channel to allow me to present his side of the story, and I know a lot of people are not going to be satisfied with that, but I think we got somewhere. I think we got somewhere, and the comments and the reaction to this is going to be pretty intense. So I might have made my YouTube, business for the month, just on the amount of views that this is going to get. Probably hate views, so I'm probably going to get a lot of dislikes. It's really weird that people would dislike the video without even watching it. There's a lot of dislikes on the video just because they dislike the character, they dislike the person. Just like the video is contained. It's weird, but you do whatever you guys want with the down votes. Nobody can see them anyways, but I think it does affect their algorithm, but I don't know. I would think that people, if they just kind of like appreciated the content, would appreciate the content itself. But they have to go after Jack Murphy because people are really angry with him. They have a lot of anger in their heart toward Jack Murphy. And I think that's really fascinating because they don't know him. They see the image like in Plato's cave. Like, this is the Plato's cave situation with our personas, and this is what we get into. This is the heart of the matter for me. It's like, and I've been talking about this on the live streams a lot and somewhat in my interviews. As we're uploading ourselves into this virtual environment, what are we doing to ourselves? And when we believe that person, or when we believe the image of the person on the screen is actually the person that we have feelings for, like, are we not participating in an illusion and how to make that illusion more real and how to make that illusion more stable and how to understand that illusion can get way out of whack and have profound impacts on one's actual life, to good and to ill, right? It's a genie in the bottle. There's good, there's ill, right? There's everything but hope. They keep hope in the jar. Hope is Elon Musk actually buying Twitter or not buying Twitter, making a better Twitter, and then everybody going over there and we all just like glory revel in a bunch of like Ukrainian flag emoji people who don't have the power to control discourse, but they can really discourse still. And we can either ignore them and associate with them or not, but we don't have to be afraid of like getting in trouble with them because they're going to go cry to Mama Safety and Support Team or whatever it's called. Okay, I'm going to check in with chat. Oh, yeah, Rakita Law. I was trying to look him up. Rakita Law. I should have had him on before he got really big. Rakita Law. Okay. I know there's going to be comment videos about this, and I know it's like it's kind of petty for me to like worry about. I'm fine. I'll be fine. I shouldn't even say that. It's Jack's reputation, but like there's like some association, so I'm going to get some pushback on that, and I think people are going to kind of understand me. Though I do kind of I am sympathetic to Jack. I am sympathetic to Jack. I can extend sympathy to people. I know it's weird. I'm flexible. I see complexity. I have sympathy for human beings. I know it's terrible. I just have a firm position and stick to it. Bigotry abounds in this heart of mine. No, I'm kidding. I'm straw manning. I'm just saying, I know the channel's going to get a lot of attention. So I hope the people that do show up and stick around are chill and our kind of people, because this kind of is community. I know it's a virtual illusion. I know it's an illusion. I put so much of myself into it, so I don't think it's a total illusion, but I am aware of the capacity of magnification, right? Beyond reasonableness, the way that we are projected onto Plato's cave, right? We grow larger than life, right? There's the cutout of the bird, which isn't a bird, but a cutout of a bird in front of the fire. The fire's real. The bird's not real, but it's a shadow of a bird. And then it's projected on the wall. So the image of the bird, which isn't even real, is even less real than the bird that isn't real. The only thing that's real is the fire, and then our make-belief, our participation, our co-making of the belief in the images that we see. And then here I am tossing my own stuff up there and my own self up there. And we get into this with Jack about the nestedness of these personas and then the impact when we get selected for that lottery. And it comes for us, and I say this in an interview, so I'll shut up about the interview, but I've said this on the channel before. It's like I have controlled cancellations. And I don't think I'm going to have one for a while. I don't think I'll personally be canceled by this, because people will watch the video, they'll like it or not. They'll pick apart something I said or not. They'll read me as good faith, bad faith or not. I don't care. They'll either sign up for the channel or not, go around and downvote my channel or not. And if they show up and they realize all this guy does is interview people, I don't want to hang around, then good for us, because we don't want people that don't want to watch interviews right now. And if they say, oh, well, he's got an interview with a bunch of people, and then they can look through. Maybe they'll see the Evergreen documentary, and then they'll say, okay, well, this guy isn't that bad. He did the greatest documentary on the wokest place. I mean, the most longest running documentary on the wokest place in the world. So he can't be that bad, right? I don't have any like worries about my channel, our relationship, my community's relationship, of it being watered down by an influx of people watching us. And that's why I don't like courting audience. I was invited to go on Tim Pool last July or June, and Lydia was Lynn's Sour Patch Lids, not Lydia. Lindsay Litz? All I know is her freaking thing. I had her on the channel, but she invited me out, and I'm like, I kind of just like didn't answer. I'm like, why don't you come on my channel? Because I just don't want the attention. Because the attention scales. If you don't scale the attention in a very specific way, then it gets bigger than you can actually control. Your channel descends into a fanarchy, or you get batted about, and people think that you're bigger than. People think that you think you're bigger than you are, or they treat you that you're bigger than you are. There's a disproportionality. I want to maintain steady growth, reasonable growth, long-term relationships with my audience, because over time, that's where this illusion starts to actually become stabilized, and where we can actually communicate some sort of real human truth to each other through this medium, through Plato's cave, over time, through your investment and belief in and not belief in me, but just your investment of attention. And by belief, I just mean coagulated, sustained attention. That's my technical definition of belief, and I go into that. This is what my book's all about. Our projection. I project myself, you project yourself, and we have this conduit that goes on. And over time, that's where it becomes actually meaningful, stable, sustainable. Those spikes, or that rapid growth comes with watering down things or having to play a different game that I don't want to play. And I think that anybody that comes into the channel and to hate watch Jack Murphy, if they do stick around and see it, they'll either be turned off by that. It's kind of it's a sieving mechanism. I force people to be patient, right? Oh no, another hour and a half. It's a sieving mechanism. It's a way of, it's a firewall from impatience, right? I'm impatient enough. I know all of us deal with impatience and stuff, but if we can decrease the impatience in this corner of the internet, I think it makes our corner of the internet a little bit more stable. And by our, I'm like including everybody who participates in this channel. Super chat, speaking of participation, thank you. From Giorgio Quattrocento. Bigot now means not having the only correct view. The one and only correct view. Even if you don't know how you got it, how to get it, how to get out of it. So dangerous. I'm going to have to fix my camera. Yeah, there we go. Now the angle's off. Oh well. Progress. Anyhow. We are at the hour 16-minute mark. My voice is getting a little sorry in the hoary. Sorry. Super chat. Belinda, thank you so much for the support and for showing up. And I've been witnessing your comments, and I appreciate your commentary contributions to the channel. Thank you for what you do. It illuminates the dark, gaslit spaces for us, for those of us who know more deeply about this reality beyond a simplistic binary, but have few to confer it with. My pleasure. I feel very honored to be able to create content that people find valuable. And yeah, shout out to Rikita. I did watch his Rittenhouse trial. Freaking brilliant. That was some excellent watching. Excellent watching. Oh, I'm just going to read the stream. I had a drink there. Golden Green, your Lindsay and Peugeot conversation was great. Lindsay articulated some things that I've been mulling over for a while. That needs a part 2. It absolutely does. I'm going to get James on in a week or two. He apparently really likes coming on my channel and talking with me. And I want him on, once a month, but I always feel like bad. I'm like, I don't want to bother James Lindsay, but he's always got time for me. It's really interesting. I just don't understand why people like me. It's like, oh, you like me? Okay. Well, I'll be back on because I like you too. Can't wait to be able to cook. I'm going to cook with James at some point. We're going to have a barbecue. I'm going to smoke a chicken and eat some macaroni. I don't know what he eats. I don't know what his side dishes are. Anyway, so yeah, it's really interesting. I'm really proud of my work with James. We have our 33 hours of Benjamin Not Interrupting Lindsay playlist. You can find it in my playlist tabs. It's literally 33 hours of me trying not to interrupt Lindsay. There was one 3-hour episode where I did interrupt Lindsay, and it really, really ticked people off, so I stopped doing that. But I really enjoy Lindsay, and I wish I had a couple more friends like this, like over time. Again, it's over time. It's that I interviewed James right after the so-called Squared hoax papers came out. 2018, I think, the fall of 2018, and then in 2019 and then 2020. And so we just have this long-term relationship. Like that's what I really want my product to be, is about that long-term relationship. Like you see the development of friendship, you see the development of somebody's thought. And I really think that James Lindsay, I'm providing like this sample of this evolution of somebody's thought. And he's a great thinker. He's a brilliant thinker. Whether you disagree with him or agree with him, like him or dislike him, that man's brain is top notch. Very few can keep up with or at his level of mentation skills. So he's very talented in that direction. And watching him like go through this massive amount of material, and then watching him digest this huge rolling zeitgeist and start to grapple with deeper forms of meaning, because he started as an atheist, which means, like these loose liberal humanist values that I have a hard time with those because they're so loosey-goosey. Talk about complex and even though I act like a liberal and I act like a humanist, that's how I portray myself. I still think like, well, is there not something more to stabilize society? Do we not need something firmer? And watching James like very carefully position himself to actually start to have some thoughts on deeper meaning stuff. And then having him and Peugeot come together. Peugeot's all about the symbolic depths, and James is really connected to the surface and the cultural tides and the historical forces and stuff. And having them in dialogue, that was a treat. And it definitely does need to have a couple more sessions. I was really Peugeot and Einstein had a conversation 3 hours long, and I thought it was really great. I listened to that. I thought it was really great, and it felt like it was almost going to get somewhere, because Brett Weinstein has his own. He's an evolutionist. He's an atheist too, and yet there's something about that, and I don't know what it is. I think for me, it's kind of aesthetic or intuitive. There's just something empty about humanism, liberalism, atheism, and science itself. It's great for doing things. But for stabilizing society and showing us where to go, I'm not convinced that it works on a large scale. I don't think it really speaks to people and urges them to act in their own best interest, in the best self-interest that also adds interest to the best interests of the society around them. And yet, even though I say that, I don't think religion is necessarily the right thing, because you're like, well, which religion? How do we create that religion? Talk about a complex topic. So watching Brett and Peugeot's a believer. He's a symbolist, and he has his interpretive framework that I think is pretty solid for what it is. And, I hear some people think it's really mushy or woo-woo and stuff, and I can see that because it's highly poetic and highly symbolic, right? It's a very symbolic thing. But it's his symbolism interacting with Brett's evolutionary way of thinking and James' rational way of thinking. There's a lot of fruitful conversation there. There's a lot of potential to unlock a lot of the usefulness of rationality and evolution, and also substantiate and bring into the world the potential meaning in symbolism, because symbolism needs to be interpreted, but you need to have the proper interpretive tools. You need some solid theory, and I think evolutionary theory really matches up to the way that entities persist through time. The way that entities persist through time, that's the evolutionary theory. And then rationalism is how human beings make sense of the world and figure out what to do with the world, right? And how things and how things persist through time. So we need those things, but we also need the symbolic connection. For me, and Vervaeke is another one. John Vervaeke, Awakening from the Meaning Crisis. I'm on episode 40 now of that 50-episode lecture series. And he's getting towards trying to describe a religion without a religion, trying to get us beyond narrative, beyond symbol, beyond narrative, into pure wisdom. And what are the practices for that? And I think of all the people that I've met, Vervaeke, it seems to me, and this is not to throw shade on anybody else, but there's something about John Vervaeke, and I've had a couple conversations with him, and I want to have more. He's close to this thing that I call spirit. And yet that thing called spirit, we cannot articulate it, right? So even if rationality makes sense, and evolution makes sense, and wisdom makes sense, or cognitive science makes sense, and symbolism makes sense, even if all that makes sense in this discursive human-to-human relationship plane, in the realm of logos, of speaking, of making sense, there's still something underneath that. And either these things point to that spirit, I'm just going to use that word and be as pablum as possible to offend as many people as possible, but still have a firm belief in something. And even the one thing that I do have a firm belief in, I try to soften that belief. Because that belief will get in the way of the thing. That's the problem with belief. Without spirit, what is any of this stuff? Without love, what is any of this stuff? Without the wine, what is the wineskin? So even these beautiful vessels and these gorgeous machines of thought, these psychotechnologies, if they have not and do not point toward that which cannot be articulated, what are they useful for? And so it seems like a lot of the people in that sort of meaning-making sense, there's a lot of preparing the way for something, for a receiving of something that can only come by grace. And that's my position. It's okay, let's try to clear the ground and make ready for that. But this is not that. All of this is not that. And I can't tell you what that is. I can't show you what that is. I might be able to express it every now and then, maybe sometime between my words, maybe sometime in the way that I ask a question or listen correctly. I'm in contact with that. I don't know how often I am, but I do feel it. I do know it's there. I do believe it's there. I do try to honor it as much as possible, and I fail in that. I could really expand a lot more room in my life for that spirit or that grace or whatever, but that is the thing. That's the special sauce. That's the thing. And if we're not going to prepare a way for that, and if we're going to let our tools for that, or tools for preparing the way, get in the way of that, then I don't even want to have that conversation, but I still want to have that conversation. So again, I keep on saying this, but I'm trying to very slowly work my way around a way to tell people who need that is there. Because there's some people who are ready for that, and there's some people who need that, and they just need to have a little bit of proof to experience it themselves, because you have to experience it yourself. That is the proof. You have to believe your own heart. You have to believe your own soul, or else where are you going? What is the reality of that if it's not secret? If it is not simply something you must find out for yourself? I shouldn't be talking about this kind of stuff on YouTube. Should keep it profane, bro. Stop with the sacredity. Chris Hanna, thank you, buddy. I saw super chats and fell in line. I'm a lemming, long-time listener. You got the Boy Scout cred, Chris. Thanks for tuning in. Somebody said that there's a cam girl in chat. I'm not going to look at that because that will distract me from higher order purpose that I'm striving for. Evergreen musical. Working on a song. I should go. I should go. I was working on a song. I just wanted to sing that one little song, and I should go. I should let you guys off the hook. Where did it go? Einstein, don't you know that words are like phenotype? I can't memorize it. Einstein, don't you know that words are... Einstein, don't you know that words like phenotype are problematic because they paved the way to genocide, and even Darwin was a racist, sexist, homophobe. Heck, half his theory was about the supremacy of heterosexuality. Half his theory was about the supremacy of hetero. I'm stuck there. Yeah, so I've made more headway on one song in the Evergreen musical. The Evergreen, okay, yeah, I gotta go. But the Evergreen anniversary is going to be 5-year anniversary is going to be like May 23rd. Me and Gracie will work to try to get something to you guys, but the musical's just not ready for publication. We have a lot of stuff that's coming along. It's getting closer. I'm really proud of it. It needs a lot of work still, but I don't think we're going to have it close to being published. I kind of want it was like a pipe dream. Because you feel the inspiration, and you think the inspiration's always going to be there. Like, I can write 1,000 songs, and then you write 2 more, and you're like, I can't write another song to save my life. And then you just have to wait for the recharge button to set. So, you have to follow the tides of musing. You can't really force it. I mean, I guess I could force it, but I'm not a professional musician, so I'm just trying to receive the songs. I'm just trying to find them and explore them and invent them and just be like, joyous in that whenever I can, rather than just force it out to make it of a certain quality and to a certain extent it's going to be a lot more joyful than it should be. And I'm thinking, my composer, she wants a little bit more dread in the music, but I'm like, no, I want joy. I know the dread is there in the lyrics. Like, this is awful, terrible, world destroying stuff, but joy. Like, everything can just be suffused in joy. I just have this feeling, if I can make the whole thing joyful, it might be the case that even though people know it's a parody, because it's so kind of innocent and joyful, the woke might just want to listen to it. And it might be more infectious if it's joyful. And maybe the dread part will gatekeep the wrong people. I don't know. That's just what I'm thinking about it. But a lot of the songs are really joyful, And so in order to approach joyful, I have to be in the correct space. I have to prepare the space. To go back to spirituality, like a good way of thinking about spirituality is through creativity. It's not par to par, but it's a good way of thinking about it. A lot of language is, you can adapt it. Like creativity, you do all the work, you set the stage, you get in the habit of writing, and you wait for the idea. But you're always writing, even if you don't have an idea. You have the practice there, you clear the space. If you have a studio, if you're an artist, you want to start being an artist, you make a space, you make a physical space. And you consecrate that space. You say, this is where the painting happens, right? And even if you have to take it down because you don't have much room, you do a tiny little ritual in setting it up, and you declare your intentionality to make the space for that inspiration, for that receiving of something, or that communicating with something, right? That art as a communication with something. And you can dress it up or dress it down from or to those romantic notions of the muse or the artist or something. But that's a really good analog to what I mean by spirituality. Like you have to set the space. You have to wash your hands, right? You have to have a clear mind. You have to have a sincere heart, right? You have to prepare the ground for that. And it comes or it doesn't come, but the reward is, half the reward's preparing for that, right? Or maybe even 90% of the reward's preparing for that. And only 10% is like actually having a sense that there is some sort of life within life. There's something there that we can't quite articulate, but we can honor, and we can bring, if we get quiet and we attenuate ourselves and we have a conversation with that, then we can bring that back into life and maybe just raise the dialogue, raise our communication, raise our feelings of other people and their feelings towards us just a little bit. And the same thing with art. Maybe it's just a practice. Maybe you're going to be a terrible artist, but you have that practice, and you just start to see. You're just a painter. You just start to see, and you start to notice things a little bit different. Maybe your product, you never get good product, but you start to pay attention to the world, and start to pay attention to how things are put together. And then when you go and something unrelated, and you have to, put together a shelf for somebody, or you have to prepare for a baby, you just have a little extra connection and participation with real life, right? And that art, that practice in and of itself, even though it didn't produce a product that you can sell or make you famous or be beautiful in and of itself, it still prepares you for that, to invite beauty into your life in other places, right? So the communication, if you want to completely secularize it, the preparing and the practicing of some sort of sacred belief, some sort of mantra or exercise that you say, no, this is spiritual, this is something beyond, this is some sort of communication with something deeper or lower, higher, and I don't believe in anything. You don't have to believe in anything there, but just participating in that starts to get you a little bit more connected and more awake and aware of being alive, of being real, of participating. And if that's all you get out of it, that's plenty, right? And let the chips fall where they may. If you don't see what's on the other side of life, it doesn't matter. You had a good life. That should be matter enough. And so I don't think that we need to advocate for any given religion, but I do think we need to advocate for some sort of sacred process, or the idea of the sacred, the idea of wisdom. And, say there's a little something more. There's a little something more. There's a vibration. There's a twofold vibration that's running from the lowest of the low to the highest of the high. Connects everything. You don't have to believe it, but it's there. Just pay attention. Anyways, this is Benjamin Boyce. Hope you guys are good. Thank you very much for tuning in to this rambly live stream. Can't remember what I called it, and I can't see what I called it. So I'll probably have to rename it and link my book in the description if you guys are interested. $5 or $3 on Kindle. It's just a little book of poems about a man and a woman. No, not a book of poems. It's one poem about a man and a woman and their relationship to love and will and life and belief. And that's that. I'll see you soon.